Hello, everyone. We're here today to talk about Infor and their new offering, the Velocity Suite. So I will turn it over to Infor leadership. Can you tell me what is Velocity Suite? Where did it come from? How do you see it as a differentiator for your customers going forward?
Sure. So obviously, people deploy software because they want to create value in their business. And what we were finding was there's all sorts of very compelling new technology around automation and machine learning and generative AI. But customers are really struggling with how do we take these combinations of technology and drive valuable outcomes. And given that we're very, very focused on industries, we felt like this is an area we could differentiate. And so what Velocity Suite is a combination of process intelligence, the ability to mine processes to see where there's opportunity, the ability to automate those processes, and generative AI and machine learning around that to add additional value. And the unique element is, number one, it's a core part of the product. There's not a bunch of other products to buy and to integrate. And number two, we've actually pre-built industry use cases. And because we're so focused on just a few industries, we believe we can show up with a differentiated point of view that delivers then these results very, very quickly in days or weeks and allows companies to embrace these new technologies to generate actual value.
So you just mentioned your different industries that you've focused in on. Can you talk a little bit about what some of your beta customers or early adopters have been able to achieve, industry specific, and then just more broadly as a theme?
Sure, we can give lots of examples. I know some of you could probably chime into. Well, one we talked about just yesterday was there's a company called Cal Tire. They make these massive tires. They're like 15 feet tall that are used in earth movers and for mining. And one of the challenges they had is those tires, when they wear out or break, it can completely stop operations. And so the combination of capabilities we had allowed us to put in place scanning so customers can scan their tires seamlessly. We can then use machine learning to determine how much wear is left on those tires. We can then, when there's a potential issue, schedule the maintenance or the replacement of those and run that all through one process without anyone touching it. That then results in far, far better utilization for customers. Cal Tire being able to plan ahead and have the right resources in the right place at the right time, and the ability to generate significantly more revenue, both in sales as well as in service. And so it's those combinations of technologies and processes all oriented around an end goal that drives revenue and margin.
Yeah, I mean, there are many, many use cases. But if you really look at why we are able to do this perhaps better than the alternates, is what Kevin earlier mentioned in terms of the technologies that we have assembled together. Typically, a customer would have to go buy third-party solutions, something for process mining, something else for integration, some other technology for security, on and on and on. And if you assemble all these technologies, they all work independent of each other. In our case, all these technologies work together. So essentially, we can have AI and workflows with RPA work together. GenAI and AI and RPA can work together. So we have another example, a customer called Fodler. They had this project in their hands. They grew through acquisitions, and they ended up with 700,000 SKUs in their item master. And they wanted to embark on a project to just clean this item master and create a brand new go-forward item master. Their team estimated 7 years worth of work to go clean this up, which of course is probably, a few days too long. So they then worked with us. We used GenAI to really identify duplicates, items that look like each other. And that project got done in less than 60 days instead of 7 years. And in the bargain, they also eliminated 5% of their inventory because they found that there were redundant inventory being kept. So this is the kind of things we could do. The best thing about this is that actual industry use cases, micro vertical use cases that we can take from one customer to many other customers and bring value to them.
One thing that I noticed when we were seeing the different examples yesterday, talking a little bit, was the value of having that full suite of applications available to the customer. We've seen in our research at Nucleus that kind of 2 + 2 = 5 value of having that interconnected suite, not having to rely on APIs that are always breaking down. It struck me, is this the death of best of breed? Is this Infor's shot at trying to bring down all the application providers?
Well, I would answer it sort of in two ways. Number one, our view is we're going to be with the customer for 10 or 20 years. And over that life cycle, They probably want to start in one area, but over time may need additional capabilities. When Infor has something that fits, great. As you mentioned, we've done the integration, the data migration, the data integration, all that is done. It's single sign-on, single user experience. We've also decided to take a different approach and be very, very open so that if they're not ready to move everything at once, no problem. Or if they do want to buy a different product that's not ours, which would be a big mistake, but if they did want to do that, making sure that we're very, very open, we're allow for easy integration, ease of data assimilation. And that's I think that element of the approach is quite different. But yeah, we definitely have a broader suite of industry-specific apps than others do, which customers view as an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, one way to think about this is what we would call democratization of technology, right? So if you are a very large company, you have a data science team, you have automation engineers in your team, you can go assemble best-of-breed technologies and deliver the value. Certainly feasible to do, right? But for vast majority of the companies that we work with, those customers don't have these capabilities built in their IT organization. So for us to be able to bring this value to them so they can get out-of-the-box value, yet have openness that Kevin was talking about, that's the beauty of this Velocity Suite.
Right. Kevin, you had mentioned earlier taking that long-term view with customers. Obviously, you all are very famously a privately held company. How is that impacting your vision, not just for Velocity Suite, but for Infor going forward?
The answer is it's an enormous benefit. I can't imagine ever going back to working in a publicly traded company for a number of reasons. And I think it does start with our customers are 10, 20-year relationships. And if we're living in a world where every single quarter we've got to post results, which are generally posting sales growth, that often puts us almost at odds with our customers who are thinking about longer term value creation and generation. So that's a very, very big difference. And I think if you look at software broadly, and you guys are the experts, not that many software projects go well. I think McKinsey says about 70% fail to meet expectations. And much of that's not necessarily because the technology is not great, but because it's a major transformation. It takes a lot of ongoing work to ultimately achieve results, which means a different partnership approach in making investments in a lot of unique areas that if you've got a short-term view, they're very difficult to make. And then last, just because we're so well capitalized, the ability to make big investments that might have longer time horizons for payback is a big, big advantage in tech, especially in these new technology areas where making big bets can have big payoffs, but maybe public markets don't have as big an appetite to put that much investment at work all at once.
Another thing that I thought was really interesting is the pricing around this.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have taken an approach that's very different from the other vendors out there. It's transparent pricing. It is predictive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be really important, obviously, as the economy is struggling right now these past couple of days, if that's something that continues. Why did you guys decide to go in with very open, flat pricing for your customers?
Well, we like any of these things, it's new technology, it's combinations. And, we started down the path of what is the right way to charge. And if you think about the underlying technologies, the costs are all very different measures, from tokens to compute to storage. And it's ultimately very complicated. And in the end, we said, we believe that if customers adopt this, it's going to make their ERP experience better. It's going to generate more value. That will accrue to us. So let's make it really simple. One flat cost, fixed price implementation, live in 2 to 8 weeks. And our belief is if we do that and make it that easy to consume and the ROI that compelling, that should allow much, much more adoption. That builds a richer library of use cases and industry capabilities. And we believe we get that flywheel going, a ton of benefits will accrue both to us and to customers.
You mentioned ROI. The days of easy money are probably gone for most of your customers. What are some actions that they can take from day one, from go live, to help ensure that ROI from Velocity Suite?
Well, the good news about Velocity Suite is I've never seen a software set of capabilities where ROI is as significant, quick, and easy to measure. If you're automating a process and including lots of additional insights, then you can very clearly see where's the efficiency gained, what's the incremental revenue, what's the incremental margin. And because we do it so quickly, like I said, 2 to 8 weeks, that's very, very easy to measure and see. And so unlike long multi-year projects that are covering lots of different areas where it can be a little more opaque, this is quite measurable and we can stand behind it. And so I think that customers love that because they're ultimately making promises to their leaders and boards around ROI and being able to show it's a huge differentiation.
And by the way, we actually took all these use cases we are talking about, attached them to the what we call the industry, process catalog. When you are implementing for a particular industry or a particular micro vertical, if there's a prescriptive way to implement, and there is automation capability that's already identified based on working with several customers, that's got real ROI because other customers have done it.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do it? Like rather than, and more importantly, if you're actually beginning an implementation, you would think about doing automation from the get-go rather than going live and then think about automation as an afterthought. So we have a lot of flexibility and it's very prescriptive. So the customers don't have to really go out of their way to imagine how to get value versus what is there and reap the benefit of what's already available.
Yeah, it's funny when you guys were presenting, you were talking about prescriptive. I was just thinking about, 5, 6, 7 years ago when prescriptive analytics was just kind of being teased. It was all machine learning. And it struck me that this is the realization of that dream. And then we've just slapped automation on top of it to really drive continued value for customers.
No, I think you're right. And I think, we started with industry features and functions, thinking if we go deeply here, we'll differentiate. But what we learned was it's more than that. You actually have to map out those detailed processes, which is quite a lot of work and really takes input from customers, folks that implement and others to kind of get to that. But once you have that ultimately mapped, it becomes far easier for customers to then take prescriptive approaches, but then far easier for us to do things like automate those processes, infuse AI or machine learning. And so it's a big investment, but we're finding again that it's creating a lot of opportunity both for customers and for us.
And one of the things that's probably not easily understood is that when we started this cloud journey, we put some basic sort of design principles in place. One, everything must be API accessible. If you're going to automate, you need APIs to be able to automate a particular part of the process. We also made it data rich. If you can collect all this data out of our suite and as well as not other applications that the customer may want to pull data from, and if I have data in one place, data drives a lot of innovation. So the combination of these two, plus the prescriptive processes we just talked about, those three things drive a whole lot of possibility in terms of how we can really leverage data to innovate, use the API to influence the process. Right? So this is not something that you can do as an afterthought. This is actually part of our design.
Really building from the bottom up.
Yes.
Absolutely. Speaking of building from the bottom up, what was the biggest technical challenge as you were going about setting this up? Kevin's smiling over there. What was keeping you up at night as the CTO?
It was a breeze.
Yes, you heard it from Soma, guys. It was a breeze.
Now, so really, a lot of software vendors assemble together many applications. And so Infor is no different from that point of view, right? So when you have heterogeneity, the teams that built these applications, they come from different technology background, different kind of architectures, bringing them all to a consistent way to work together, consistent common technology platform that they can collaborate on to bring those applications together with a single user experience, single security architecture, single way to integrate these processes together, a single place to collect data. That was not for the faint of heart. It took us a long time and we made our mistakes. Some of those things we had to actually trash and rebuild. But eventually, everyone understood the benefit of what we are trying to do once they saw the fruits of what they would get if they actually go through this journey. So our own heterogeneity led to actually building something that solves the customer's problem, which is the beauty of this. So it was a technical challenge for sure.
Well, now that you're done, what's next?
So there is a lot more collaboration with customers that's going to drive many more use cases. This catalog is going to get really rich, and there's going to be a lot of value we can deliver.
Awesome. Lastly, to wrap it up, what would you like prospective customers to know about Velocity Suite and Infor going forward?
If you're looking to take advantage of the latest technologies and looking for very clear, demonstrable ROI, I think it's worth a look because I think it's truly differentiated. And I think customers will find it so easy to deploy and adopt and so easy to see that value that it's well worth investing some time to learn more.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Hope you all at home got some information as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.